was really fun, wasn't it? I hope you had fun breaking the code. And I'm really pleased to talk with everyone here today. My name is Angela. I'm from the psychology department here at NIU. I'm going to talk to you about psychology and the brain, and I'm going to help you, escape the maze with some tasks that will force you to use your brain. So let's talk about life in the Glade. Life in the Glade is very stressful. It's emotional. It's unpredictable. It's confusing. This is essentially daily life for Thomas and all of his friends and everyone that lives in the Glade. So this brings up a question: is stress good or bad? Well, it's both. Sometimes stress can actually be good for our bodies. If it's short and if it's predictable, this might actually be good for us. So imagine that you have a test in a few days at school. If you didn't experience any stress about that test, you might not do your homework, you might not study, you might not even go to school that morning. So a little bit of stress is good. That's going to actually help you plan and prepare. So you would do your homework, you would study, you would get up early that morning and be ready to go. But when stress is chronic and unpredictable, then it can harm our bodies, it can harm our brains, and it can influence our health. And essentially, this chronic, unpredictable stress is what the kids in the Glade experience all the time. So we can study stress using animals, and that's what we do here at NIU. We can study how stress affects our brains and our bodies and our emotions and our ability to learn and remember information. And all of these things are very important in the Glade. So for instance, there's a lot of social stress in the Glade. These kids are strangers. They don't know where they came from. They're forced to live together and work to try to escape and solve some problem. We can actually use animals to study social stress. So this is a picture on the slide of what are called prairie voles. And these voles are very interesting little rodents that engage in social bonding. They form very strong social bonds, similar to the way people form social bonds with their families and friends and boyfriends and girlfriends. And so we can use these animals to try and understand how social stress affects behavior and the brain and health. So here's an example. Here is an example of two prairie vole sisters who are forming a bond. This is what they do. They like to sit with their bodies touching. This is a very common way that these animals form social bonds. They like to sit together. These prairie voles just met. This is a male and female. You can see they're behaving very differently. They're trying to get to know each other. They're exploring each other. They might be trying to communicate. This is one of the things they may do to try and get to know each other. There's also a lot of anxiety in the Glade. The kids know that there's something called Wicked that's watching them. Wicked claims to be good, but they don't know why. There's grievers that are trying to kill them. And this brings a lot of anxiety and confusion. We can also study anxiety using animals to try and get a better understanding of how anxiety affects our health. So for instance, this is a type of maze for an animal. It doesn't look like the maze outside of the Glade with tall walls, but it's a big open space, and these prairie voles have to explore around this open space, and it's new and it's scary to them. So this animal is exploring this open space. This animal is trying to find a way out. It's spending a lot of time looking around, trying to escape. This would be a very healthy, adaptive way to explore this new environment, just like the kids who run through the maze every day looking for a way out. This animal on the right is very still. In fact, it looks like the video is paused, but it's not. He's very still. He's almost frozen with fear. He's displaying an anxiety response, and this would be less healthy. This would be a less adaptive way to try and deal with this stressful situation. There's also a lot of learning and memory and problem solving that the kids need to do in the Glade to try and find a way out. This is very stressful for them. They have no memories of their past. They don't know where they came from. They don't know why they're there. They know that they have concluded that they should run through the maze and try and find a solution. And they spend a lot of their time searching for a solution. So we can also use animals to try and understand how animals learn and remember information. And there's various types of tasks that we can use that kind of look like mazes in animals. So this task is called a water maze. Again, it doesn't look like the maze outside of the Glade, but it's a big pool of water, and the animal has to find a hidden platform that is underneath the water. So the animal has to swim around and search for this platform. This animal on the left knows where the platform is, and you'll see he swims directly to it, and now he can rest on this platform. He can get out of the water. He knows exactly what to do. This animal on the right has brain damage. And notice he can't find the platform. He's swimming all around the tank, and he never actually finds the platform. His brain is damaged. He can't remember how to search around for the platform. This is another kind of problem-solving task that we can use in animals. It's a big table, and you can see there's all these holes, and the animal has to leave a home base, find a food pellet, and bring it back so he can eat it. Okay, so here on the left, this animal knows what to do. You can see his home is highlighted in red, and he has to cross the table, find a food pellet, bring it back to his home. Okay, so he comes out, he goes directly to the food pellet. He looks around a little bit. He brings the food pellet directly back to his home. Okay, you'll see it again from the top. He leaves the home, he finds the food pellet, and he brings it directly back. Now he gets inside his home, he can eat it. This animal is lost because he's leaving from a new home. He's never been to this home before. Okay, the green home is novel. The red is his old home. So he's confused already. He's already lost. He doesn't know what to do. He has to spend time. Finally, he finds the food and he goes back to his old home. That's not where he's supposed to be. This is not what he's supposed to be doing. He's a little confused, you can see. Okay, and then eventually he finds his way back to his new home where he's supposed to be. So the kids in the Glade have to find ways to cope with the stress. And they do a pretty good job with this, despite the fact that there's all kinds of chronic and unpredictable stress for these kids. They try and work toward common goals. They come up with jobs for each other to do so that they can get through the day. And they try and work together to solve the problem in front of them, in this case, trying to escape the maze. And we can also try and understand how animals cope with stress and how this might be useful for the brain to cope with stress. So for instance, we can give animals all kinds of toys and things to do inside of their cage. You can see there's some samples of toys in the picture on the left. There's things that the animals can pick up with their paws. There's things they can chew on. There's a running wheel where they can exercise, places where they can hide. Okay, so here's some examples of the activities that the animals might do that will stimulate their brain in a positive way and help them manage stress. So these animals on the left, there's one inside the little igloo house, and there's another one over on the left side playing with something over there. And you can see here's another example. They really like this little igloo house. They can crawl on top of it or they can crawl inside it. And they will spend a lot of time exploring these objects in their cage. And again, this is a useful way to stimulate the animal's brain and help them cope with stress, just like activities that we may do throughout the day that will help us cope with stress. Okay, so I am here to help you escape the maze by walking you through some problem-solving tasks, some memory and attention and problem-solving tasks. So let me go through the games that we're going to do and walk you through how this will work. Okay, I'm going to give you instructions for the game. For each one, there's going to be 5 games. Okay, and then there's going to be a chance just to go through a practice to make sure you know what to do. After the practice, you will play the game, and everyone will record your answers individually on your own sheet in front of you. So that's why you need some blank paper. Okay, even the person in charge of the answer sheet, everyone's going to need some blank paper so you can record your answers individually. You're going to have a brief period of time to write down your answers to the game. After that, you're going to get 1 minute of group time where you will discuss your answers, and the person in charge of your answer sheet is going to record the answers on the answer sheet. Okay? So you're going to have to work very efficiently in this 1 minute period. You're going to have to work together as a team to get your answers discussed and written on your answer sheet. So the first task is a word task, okay? So what I need is everyone put your pens and pencils down on the table. You're not going to do any writing during the task. You're going to wait until it's done, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to show you some words. I need you to read those words, and then when the words disappear, write down as many words as you can remember, okay? So everyone's pens or pencils should be down on the table. And then I'll need it quiet. This also is a quiet task where there's no discussion during this task, okay? Everyone ready? Okay. Okay, pick up your pens and pencils, write down as many words as you can remember. Okay, so we're now going to move into your 1 minute of group time where you discuss your answers and someone has to write them on your answer sheet. So the timer is starting now. Okay, your 1 minute time is up. So I'm going to need you to finish your conversations. Make sure you've got all your answers on your answer sheet. Okay? We're going to move on to task 2. Okay, task 2 is a number game. Again, I'm going to need you to put your pencils down on the table. I'm going to show you some numbers. I need you to look at each number, and then when the sequence of numbers is finished, that is when you pick up your pencil, write down the numbers in order. Okay? So again, pens and pencils should be down. I'm just going to do a practice round with you so you see what it looks like. Okay, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so when you see end, that was when you can pick up your pencil. So what were the numbers? 4, 3, 2, 1. So you would write them in that order. So again, you're going to record your answers individually on your own answer sheet, and then you're going to get 1 minute of group time. Okay? So pens and pencils down. Are we ready? Okay. Okay, go. Okay, your 1 minute is up. So be sure the person in charge of your answer sheet has gotten the answers written down. Okay, so we're going to move on to task 3. Task 3 is called boxes. And put your pens and pencils down. I'm going to show you some red lights. There's going to be red lights lighting up in different positions on the screen. And when the sequence is finished, you're going to pick up your pen and pencil, write down the order in which you saw the boxes presented. Are we ready? Okay.
Back to that one, yeah. I think it went 5, yeah. No, there was no more.
Your 1 minute is up for that task, so be sure you got your answers recorded on your answer sheet. Okay, we're going to move on to task 4. Task 4 is a picture. Put your pens and pencils down on the table. I'm going to show you a picture. You're going to have time to look at it. And then when the picture disappears, I want you to draw it from memory as best you can. Are we ready? Okay, go.
Out there.
Yeah. And there's like another square here.
There's a square here.
Yeah, there's like a rectangle. Yeah.
Okay, your 1 minute is up. So finish up your drawing. Make sure it's as accurate as you can get it. Okay. We're going to move on to the final task. This is done a little bit differently. This is going to be a group task to some extent. So you can keep your pens and pencils in your hand for this task. This is a color task, okay? So it's okay to talk with your group, but I suggest you kind of talk quietly so you don't get all confused with a lot of commotion in the room. I'm going to show you some words on the screen, and as fast as you can, you're going to write down the color of each word. So, are we ready? Okay. Okay, so you can now discuss with your group.
So start going across and then do the ones down.
At this point, we're going to discuss the answers. This is why I needed to make sure you gave your answer sheet to your table leader, okay, just so you have an idea of what these tasks are doing. Okay, so this first task of all the words, this was called a working memory task. You needed to hold a lot of information in your short-term memory and then be able to recall it a few minutes later, okay? So this was the list of words. And I'm just by a show of hands, how many of you remembered the words small or potato? Okay, quite a few of you. Does anyone know why? Okay, they were the first or the last in the series. So often we are more likely to remember the first thing in a series. That's called a primacy effect. It's the first thing you saw, you're more likely to remember it. Or we're more likely to recall the last word in the series. That's called the recency effect, because it was the last thing you saw. It was the most recent in your memory. Also, by a show of hands, how many of you remembered the word terrorism? Okay, why do you think this is? Okay, it's sort of an unusual word. It's different from the rest. It's very negative in its connotation. And when words have some sort of emotional significance, very positive or very negative, we might be more likely to remember those. So I also could have given you a positive word. Or for instance, if one of these words has a lot of value to you, like you love magic, and all you do is think about magic and do magic, you might have remembered the word magic as well. Task 2 is called a serial recall task. So I showed you all of these numbers in order, one at a time, and it was necessary for you to hold all that information in your memory so you could write it down at the end of the task. So this was the actual list of numbers: 5, 2, 8, 3, 5, 4, 1, 8. So task 3 is called a spatial memory task. And this was all the red boxes that lit up. And so you had to remember what position was each box. And some of them occurred in the same position twice, right? So this was the actual order that of the red lights presented in front of you. And this is called a spatial memory task because you have to remember the position or the space of the information. Okay, task 4 was an attention task. This is a special kind of picture. It's called a ray asterisk complex figure. And this picture is actually used to study brain damage. And so none of you have any brain damage, so you probably could do an okay job. But I showed it to you for a very short period of time, so it probably was a little challenging for you to remember all the details of this picture. One thing that scientists might do is they may use this picture to study what kind of damage might have occurred in somebody's brain. So if somebody gets a concussion, or they get in a car accident, or they have some sort of trauma that might damage their brain, the scientists can use this picture and they can try and understand what strategies are people using to either copy the picture or draw it from memory. I made you draw it from memory today because it's more difficult than just copying it. And this last task was essentially a task of cognitive conflict. This is called the Stroop task. So the words are what you saw in the bottom right. You see the actual words. What you needed to tell me was the color of each word, which are the boxes that I've drawn on the left. And so essentially what I did is I confused your brain because the content of the word interferes with your ability to look at the color, right? Because the word red is written in a color that is not red, and the word blue is written in a color that is not blue. And so by forcing you to tell me the color of each word, I was confusing your brain. Essentially, this is a task that is used to study stress and attention. The more stressful it is, the more difficult the task would be for you. So good luck. They're watching you. They're going to grade your answers, and I hope you have a really great time the rest of the day. Thank you for having me.